shows changing of the speed. So we've gone up to 2 meters per second. Yeah, we'll just whiz back. That was a meter per second. So you saw, for example, the round trip time, if we take the first column, 60 and a half seconds. Go to 2 meters per second, you think you're going to reduce it massively, it's gone to 57. You've dropped 3 seconds off, it's minimum. So it's not about increasing speed to increase the numbers of people. So we can double the lift speed, but there's only a 10% increase in actual traffic movement. And, people think fast lifts are going to make it better. No, change the doors, put centre opening doors in, change the dwell times, getting people in or out, actually is what's going to be a bigger effect for you. So, sorry, but it is it's a great little piece of information. So this table, if any of you have ever happened to have a look at it, going back in my day to Trillium where I was, we were in London Wall, which used to be originally a banking suite. So very, very low volume density on the floors, probably 40 or 50 people. We turned it into probably 90 to 100, and on the what was the CSC customer support floor, I think we got 120 people per floor. So it was really easy to take this document off one of the execs' suites, take it to them and say, well look, if we just open this up now, we look at that document, that's what it would have been in the day. 4 lifts for the whole building. With our population that we got in it, we needed 6 lifts and the good lifts to get a good lift service and throughput. It also talks about things like the British Council of Officers pick up on it as well, that to get good lift service, you want easy access to the stairs, so people don't take the lift. You don't want multiple entrances, and at London Wall we had a ground floor, we had a mezzanine, we had a podium, and if anybody's been around by the Museum of London on the Barbican, it's actually on a stilt. So the first thing is you've got 20 metres to get to before you even got to a floor. So as you can imagine, the lifts were manic. Working with a company called Lift Technica, with a control panel manufacturer, I worked out one day that our biggest problem is that when you put a lift call in, yeah, it's a lift call. It doesn't know how many people stood behind you. You can press it 20, 30 times. It doesn't know, it's just one call. It will send the next lift down. You just put in a key switch and said to it to return the lift constantly on the morning up peak to ground and podium, which was the main 2 entrances that people came in. And it took the chief exec and the chief operating officer about 2 days to realise something had happened, and that was all it was. I wouldn't tell them what had happened at first, but it came back and said, well, whatever you've done, the queues have gone. It's brilliant. Now tell us what you've done. I said, I'm not telling you what I've done. And it was just a case of putting it in. So bringing those lifts down constantly meant that when people came and they pushed the door, the lift was going to be there within a matter of a couple of seconds, if it wasn't already there. So yeah, just more and more on the tables. That was the particular part of the table where I had to be. So we were about here, 17, 18 stories, and we got 4, I think the population number, I think that's the population number as an average on your floor. So all of a sudden we've gone from 4 here, and we were down at sort of 5 and 6. And it was just a great piece to be able to do it. They didn't want to spend 2.4 million, which was what the estimate was going to be to put a new lift on the outside of the building, surprisingly enough. We'll get through that. Okay, so vertical transportation design, 2 statutory requirements. That's it. That's it. With the biggest bane of the building contractor's life, apparently, we've only got 2 statutory requirements. So evacuation lifts are all down to choice. Absolutely down to choice. No necessity for them, no requirement for them. Totally down to choice. So we've got to get the disabled up and down. We've got to get the firefighters in and out. After that, do what you want. And these are the bits now that we really start to talk a little bit more about, because those are the, I always put Scotland up last, God bless them. So why would you consider having the evacuation lift? What about Grenfell Tower? Where does that put us all now? What's our thoughts on that one?
perfectly, it's the last resort, isn't it? Ideally.
Well, I think it's always been the last resort. Personally, I think it's always been the last resort. And I think it comes down to they believe it costs too much money to put an evacuation lift in. What's the price of life? All of those council blocks, I can pretty much guarantee you, any council block that's out there today in the UK, the likelihood is it hasn't got a firefighting lift. And I can almost guarantee you it definitely won't have an evacuation lift. So anything that's the age of that, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you're going to all be in the same situation. Lots of them have got a single lift that's doing the odd floors and a single lift that's doing the even floors and things like that. Yeah, so that potential disaster is sat around 99% of the UK large council tenement block locations. And it's something that through all the modernisations they could have done and brought them in, sorted out. So as mentioned, the key documents, the regulatory reform, obviously Part B and then BS9999. So the reform, I think, that change to the duty holders to bring the responsibility to them and their people in the building. Are they really doing it? I don't think that they are. Are the architects and the designers really taking that piece of information and talking to their client when they go through design? I don't think they are. They're talking to you guys about it when you're doing design. Okay, so that's where B1, obviously, yeah, you can have one if you want. That's about as strong as that is to me. You can have one if you want. It remains usable for evacuation purposes. It's very, very, very wishy-washy. It's have one if you want. So, what type of emergency lift? Fireman's lift, evacuation lift, firefighting. I'm not going to ask you because you probably will know the answer. Can anybody suggest what the differences are with them? Yeah. How is it controlled by the fireman? I know, Philip. We used to service some of Philip's lifts. How is it controlled? Well, it's quite literally your fire alarm's gone off. That lift's at ground floor, and you've all seen the little glass brake switch. Literally, all it does is break the glass and isolate the fire alarm signal. He's got no protection. He's got no additional fire safety. He's got no 2-hour fire rated doors. He's got no secondary supplies. It's his choice to use it. So lots of people think they've got a fireman's lift and the firefighters are going to do it and we can evacuate and we can do this. No, you haven't. He's got a lift. If he wishes to use it, he can break the glass and go and use it. Evacuation lifts obviously then move into having additional fire protection, secondary power supplies, albeit, and that's why 76 is, for me, a bad thing. 76 is saying we don't require secondary supplies. As engineers, would any of you feel that you want to get in a lift that hasn't got a secondary power supply to it? No. And then firefighting goes even further. As we just had a chat earlier on, you've got to go to 2-hour fire rating, you've got to have a 2-hour standby supply available to them. It has to attain the top floor within 60 seconds. It has to open the doors on a full press by the fire brigade guys. So as soon as that door starts to open, if there's a fire there, they just let go of it, the doors auto close. So it's a totally different control regime when you come to firefighting. Evac, pretty simple in real terms. Your lift will go down to ground floor, doors open, somebody comes and puts the lift into evacuation control. Evac control is that you're just using the car buttons. Landing calls are all cut off. Yeah, you've got comms in the lift car, you've got comms on the landings. Your disabled people will be communicating with whoever, your fire officer, warden control, or whoever.